All right, now we've moved over to the control cabinet on this machine. So one of the things that you want to do is we want to start with the terminal strips up here across the top row of all the components inside the control cabinet. And we want to verify that each individual wire is tight. And you'll see that there's a lot of your control wires going to the system on this terminal strip. So we definitely want to make sure these connections are tight. Once you've checked both banks of terminal strips, we'll come down to the CPU of the machine. First thing that I like to do is I like to give the wires a general tug and make sure that I don't see anything loose in them. Make sure nothing comes out in my hand as I'm going through it. Then what I'll do is I'll come back, and as you can see on this one, as I was pulling on it to make sure the wires were tight, it unplugged a little bit. So we want to make sure that we push in on each individual connector just to make sure that they're seated well into the CPU. You want to do it with the next row down, and then the bottom row. You want to do the same thing. Check all the wires, make sure nothing comes out in your hand, and then go back through and just make sure that all the connectors are plugged in into the control. Once you have that done, then we'll check the relays for the robot interface. Then you'll want to come in and check the pills unit, making sure the same thing, that you don't see any wires that are loose in it, and that as we push in on each individual connectors, the top row, and it's a little bit harder on the video to see, but there is a bottom row of connectors that you need to push in on. Then on the pills relays, we want to verify that every connection here is tight. You have different rows of connections. You have the front one here, and then if you move the wires, you'll see that there's a second row in the back. We want to make sure everything is good and tight. Checking the amplifier card, the power supply. Then while you're here, you want to check the ground block, verify that all of your grounds are tight and there's nothing loose here. And then finally you have your two analog or digital meters here, but there's really nothing to check here. So at this point, we'll check these once the power is on. Now the other thing is that you have fans inside the cabinet. There are two wire, and you just want to make sure that when you grab the connections on it, everything is tight and plugged in as you're doing it. You have one on the left-hand door and one on the right-hand door.